My wife thought she was being clever. For 3 weeks, she'd been sneaking around, helping what she claimed was a girlfriend from work with apartment hunting and decorating advice. Late-night texts, weekend trips to Target and HomeGoods, hushed phone conversations that ended the moment I walked into the room. The red flags were there, but I trusted her. 15 years of marriage had earned her that benefit of the doubt. Until last Tuesday, when her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. The message preview lit up the screen. Thanks for the lamp recommendation. My place is starting to feel like home thanks to you. Can't wait to show you how it all came together. From someone named. Well, let's just say it wasn't any girlfriend I'd ever heard of. It was him, the ex-boyfriend from college. The one who broke her heart 20 years ago before we met. I sat there staring at that message, my coffee getting cold, as puzzle pieces clicked into place. The weekend shopping trips weren't with any coworker. The decorating advice wasn't innocent. This guy had moved to our city, and somehow, she'd become his personal interior design consultant. When she came downstairs, hair still damp, reaching for her phone with that casual smile she'd been wearing for weeks, I was ready. So, tell me about your new friend, I said, sliding her phone across the counter. Her face went white, then red. Then she tried the defensive route. It's not what you think. Really? Because what I think is that your ex-boyfriend moved to town, and instead of telling your husband, you've been playing house with him for 3 weeks. I was helping him get settled. That's all. Behind my back. Because I knew you'd react like this. Her voice pitched higher, that tone she used when she knew she was caught. You're being paranoid and controlling. Controlling. That's rich, coming from someone who'd been living a double life for most of the month. How long has he been in town? Does it matter? It matters because my wife has been lying to me. It matters because you've been sneaking around. It matters because you thought I was too stupid to figure it out. She crossed her arms, full defensive mode now. Look, he needed help. He doesn't know anyone here. I was just being a decent person. A decent person would have mentioned it to her husband. So I could deal with your jealousy and insecurity? There it was. The accusation designed to make me back down, to make me feel like the unreasonable one. Classic manipulation. Paint the victim as the problem. I set my mug down carefully. You want to talk about insecurity? Let's talk about a woman who can't tell her ex-boyfriend no when he comes sniffing around her marriage. That's not. He wasn't. He wasn't what? Using the oldest trick in the book? Help me decorate my apartment. I'm so lost without a woman's touch. I shook my head. And you fell for it. Or maybe you wanted to fall for it. Her jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know enough. I know you lied. I know you chose to help him instead of being honest with me. I know you're standing here trying to make me feel crazy for not wanting my wife to play house with her ex. I'm not playing house with anyone. No? Then why all the secrecy? Why the lies about girls' trips to Target? Why the fake girlfriend story? She opened her mouth, then closed it. No good answer for that one. Because you knew it was wrong. I continued. You knew exactly how inappropriate it was, and you did it anyway. Then you lied about it. For weeks. The silence stretched between us. I could see her mind racing, trying to find some angle, some way to flip this back on me. But the evidence was sitting right there on her phone. He's just a friend, she said finally, her voice smaller now. Friends don't require lies, sweetheart. Friends don't require cover stories. Friends don't make you sneak around behind your husband's back. I stood up. But ex-boyfriends with ulterior motives? They require all of that and more. She stared at me, and for a moment, I thought maybe she'd come clean. Maybe she'd admit what this really was, and we could deal with it head on. Instead, she doubled down. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's innocent. You're acting like I'm having an affair. Emotional affairs start exactly like this. With lies. With secret meetings. With choosing someone else over your spouse. I haven't chosen anyone over you. Haven't you? When you decided to help him instead of being honest with me, what was that? When you lied to my face for 3 weeks, what was that? Her phone buzzed again. Another message from him. She grabbed it quickly, but not before I saw the heart emoji at the end of whatever he'd sent. Heart emoji? To my wife? From her ex-boyfriend. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Almost. You know what the funny thing is? I said, heading toward the door. He played you perfectly. The helpless guy act, needing advice about curtains and coffee tables, making you feel needed and special, and you ate it up. Where are you going? To work. To think. To figure out what I'm married to. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I turned back to face her. My wife has been lying to me, helping her ex-boyfriend set up house, and accepting heart emojis from him. But I'm the one being dramatic. I left her standing in the kitchen, phone in hand, finally seeing her lies for what they were. But as I drove to work, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. That whatever game he was playing, whatever he really wanted, she was about to find out. And so was I. The question wasn't whether she'd choose him over me. The question was whether I'd still be around when she tried to come back. The next few days were tense. She'd gotten quieter, more defensive. Every conversation felt like walking through a minefield. But instead of backing down or cutting contact with him, she doubled down on her story that it was all innocent. Thursday evening, 3 days before our second honeymoon trip to Napa Valley that we'd planned for months, she brought him up again. He invited me to see how the apartment turned out, she said while loading the dishwasher. Casual, like she was talking about the weather. I looked up from my laptop. Excuse me. He wants to show me how everything looks with all the furniture in place. You know, see if the advice I gave him worked out. The audacity was breathtaking. And you're telling me this because? Because I don't want you finding out and making it into something it's not. Right? Because visiting your ex-boyfriend's apartment alone is totally normal married behavior. She slammed a plate into the dishwasher. See? This is exactly why I didn't want to tell you in the first place. You make everything sound dirty and suspicious. It is suspicious. Your ex-boyfriend doesn't want to show you his throw pillows. He wants to get you alone in his apartment. You don't know him. I don't need to know him. I know men. And I know what this is. She turned to face me fully, hands on her hips. What is it then, since you're so sure? It's him testing boundaries. Seeing how far he can push before you say no. Seeing how much control he can get back over you. Control? That's ridiculous. Is it? He shows up in your city after 20 years. Suddenly needs help with everything from finding a grocery store to picking out curtains. Can't figure out adult life without you holding his hand. I closed the laptop. And now he needs you to come validate his decorating skills in person. Real subtle. Maybe he just values my opinion. Your opinion about what? How good his bedroom looks. Her face flushed red. That's disgusting. That's reality. You think he cares about your thoughts on his coffee table arrangement? He's setting up the scene for something else entirely. You're being paranoid. And you're being naive. I stood up. But go ahead. Go see his apartment. See how that works out for you. Maybe I will. The challenge in her voice told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about helping a friend anymore. This was about proving a point to me. About showing me she could do whatever she wanted. Friday came and went. She didn't mention the apartment visit, but she was on her phone constantly. Texting, laughing at messages, that little smile she used to give me. Saturday morning, 2 days before our flight to California, I found her in the bedroom packing. Getting ready for Napa? I asked. Among other things. She folded a dress I'd never seen before. Black, form-fitting, definitely not something she'd wear wine tasting with her husband. Nice dress. New. I picked it up yesterday. For our trip. She shrugged. It's versatile. Versatile. Right. The kind of dress you wear when you want to make an impression. The kind of dress you don't wear to vineyards with your husband. Sunday evening, she was quieter than usual at dinner. Distracted. Checking her phone every few minutes. Everything okay? I asked. Fine. You seem somewhere else. She set her fork down. Can I ask you something? Sure. If you had unfinished business with someone from your past, wouldn't you want closure? The question hit like a punch to the gut. What kind of unfinished business? Just things that were never resolved. Feelings that were never properly dealt with. With your ex? Hypothetically. There's nothing hypothetical about this conversation. I leaned back in my chair. What are you really asking me? She took a breath. What if I told you I needed one night to close that chapter completely? Just one night to put the past to rest, so I can move forward with you. The words hung in the air like smoke. One night. To close a chapter. With her ex-boyfriend. I stared at her across the table. Are you serious right now? I'm trying to be honest with you. You're trying to get permission to cheat on me. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Explain to me what one night to close that chapter means. She fidgeted with her napkin. It means putting the past where it belongs. Dealing with feelings that were never resolved. By sleeping with him. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. What else could one night possibly mean? You're going to play Monopoly and discuss your feelings. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I'm making it exactly as big as it is. My wife wants to spend the night with her ex-boyfriend to get closure. 2 days before our second honeymoon. I shook my head. The timing alone is insulting. The trip will be better if I can put this behind me first. The trip? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think there's still going to be a trip after this conversation? Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? You just asked your husband for permission to cheat on him. But I'm the one being dramatic. She stood up abruptly. I knew you wouldn't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. Your ex-boyfriend has been working on you for weeks. The helpful act, the needy routine, the heart emojis. And it worked. Now you're convinced you need to close that chapter with him. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. And you know what the really pathetic part is? You actually think I'm going to sit here and wait while you go handle your unfinished business. She turned toward the stairs. I'm going to bed. Yeah, you do that. And while you're lying there thinking about your one night of closure, think about this. The woman who needs to cheat on her husband to get over her ex-boyfriend was never over him to begin with. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs but didn't turn around. And the husband who gets asked that question? He's already got his answer about what kind of marriage he's really in. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the bedroom door close. I sat there in the dining room, staring at the remnants of what had just become our last dinner as a married couple. She'd crossed every line there was to cross. The lies, the secret meetings, the emotional affair. And now she wanted my blessing to finish what they'd started. The funny thing was, she thought she was being honest by asking. Like asking for permission to destroy our marriage made it somehow noble. But she'd already given me my answer. Not to her question, but to mine. The question I'd been asking myself since I found those messages. What kind of woman was I really married to? Now I knew. And more importantly, I knew what I was going to do about it. Monday morning, she left for work without saying goodbye. I heard her moving around upstairs, getting ready, but she avoided the kitchen where I was having coffee. Fine by me. We had nothing left to discuss anyway. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I got to work. First call was to the travel agency. I need to cancel a trip to Napa Valley. Today. Sir, with less than 24 hours notice, you'll forfeit the entire cost. I understand. Cancel it. Both rooms. Both rooms, the wine tours, the restaurant reservations. Everything. The agent sounded confused but processed the cancellation. $2,300 down the drain, but money well spent considering what I was buying, my freedom. Second call was to my bank. I need to speak to someone about closing joint accounts. Is your spouse aware of this decision, sir? She will be. I drove to the main branch and spent 2 hours moving money, closing accounts, and removing her access to everything we'd built together. The checking account, savings account, the credit cards where I was the primary holder. She'd wake up tomorrow financially severed from me. Third call was the hardest one. My brother-in-law, who happened to be the best divorce attorney in the state. This is a surprise, he said when I walked into his office. Please tell me you're here about a business matter. I wish I was. His face fell. What happened? I laid it out. The lies, the secret meetings, the emotional affair, and finally, her request for one night to close the chapter with her ex. He sat back in his leather chair, processing. She actually asked you for permission? She thought she was being honest. She was being calculating, testing to see if you'd accept it. If you said yes, she'd have your blessing. If you said no, she'd do it anyway and claim you're controlling. Either way, she wins. In her mind, yes. But legally, she just handed you everything. He opened a file drawer. Adultery might not carry the weight it used to, but emotional affairs and requests for sexual encounters with third parties? That's still powerful in court. I signed papers for the next hour. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Financial disclosures. Asset division requests. Everything needed to end 15 years of marriage as quickly and cleanly as possible. How fast can this move? I asked. With her behavior and your documentation? Fast. Especially if she doesn't contest. She will. Then we'll be ready. By 3 in the afternoon, I'd accomplished more than most people do in a week of marital crisis. The trip was canceled, the money was secured, the divorce was filed. All that remained was the execution. I stopped by a phone store and got a new number. Then I went home and started packing her things. Not angrily, not vindicatively, just methodically. Her clothes, her books, her personal items. Everything that belonged to her went into boxes. I wanted her out, but I wasn't going to be accused of throwing her belongings in the street. The most important item went in last, a letter I'd spent an hour writing. Clear, direct, and final. No emotion, no anger, just facts and consequences. By the time I finished, the living room looked like a storage unit. 15 boxes of a marriage, ready to be collected. I ordered dinner from that steakhouse downtown. The expensive one she always said we couldn't afford for just a regular Monday night. Tonight felt like a celebration. I was celebrating the end of being disrespected in my own house. She got home around 6:30, same as always. I heard her car in the driveway, heard her keys at the front door. Then silence. "What is all this?" she called from the living room. I finished my steak, wiped my mouth, and walked out to meet her. She was standing among the boxes, looking confused and slightly panicked. "Your things," I said simply. "My things? What do you mean, my things?" I handed her the envelope with her name on it. "Everything you need to know is in there." She tore it open, her eyes scanning the page. I watched her face change as she read. Confusion to disbelief to shock to panic. "You canceled our trip?" "I did." "You closed our bank accounts?" "The ones where I was the primary holder, yes." "You filed for divorce?" "This morning." She looked up from the letter, her face pale. "Are you insane? Over one conversation. Over 3 weeks of lies. Over an emotional affair. Over you asking permission to cheat on me." "I didn't ask permission to cheat. You asked for one night with your ex to close a chapter. What exactly did you think that meant?" I thought we could work through this. We could have. 3 weeks ago when you first started lying to me. We could have when you first started sneaking around with him. We could have yesterday morning before you asked me to let you sleep with him." I gestured to the boxes. "But not anymore. You're throwing away 15 years over a misunderstanding. I'm ending 15 years because you chose another man over your marriage. You chose lies over honesty. You chose him over me. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is consequences." She started to cry. The tears that were supposed to make me feel guilty, make me reconsider, make me be the reasonable one who gives in. "Please don't do this," she whispered. "We can fix this." "No, we can't. Because fixing it would require you to admit what you did was wrong. And you can't do that. Even now, you're calling it a misunderstanding. I made mistakes. You made choices. You chose to lie. You chose to meet him secretly. You chose to help him over being honest with me. You chose to ask for a night with him instead of working on our marriage." I headed toward the stairs. "I'm just choosing to respond." "Where are you going?" "To bed. You can sleep in the guest room tonight, or you can go stay with him. I honestly don't care which." "Please," she called after me. "Can't we at least talk about this?" I stopped halfway up the stairs. "We did talk. Last night at dinner. You told me exactly where I stand in your priorities. You told me exactly what our marriage means to you. You told me exactly what you're willing to do to it. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. You just thought I'd accept it." I continued up the stairs. "You thought wrong." I heard her crying in the living room, surrounded by boxes of her life with me. Part of me almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered the lies. The sneaking around. The heart emojis. The request for one night to close a chapter that should have been closed 20 years ago. She'd made her choice when she decided to prioritize him over me. I was just making mine by refusing to be her backup plan while she figured out her feelings for another man. Tomorrow would bring more tears, more pleading, more promises to change. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I was going to sleep peacefully, because I finally knew exactly what I was dealing with. And more importantly, I knew exactly what I was done dealing with. Tuesday morning, she was gone before I woke up. The boxes were still in the living room, untouched. She'd slept in the guest room and left without a word. Perfect. It made what came next much easier. I took a personal day from work and spent it handling details. Changed the locks, updated insurance beneficiaries, removed her access to everything that mattered. By noon, she was officially cut off from the life we'd built together. Around 2 in the afternoon, my phone started ringing. Her number. I didn't answer. She called 6 more times over the next hour. Then the text started. "We need to talk. This is crazy. Answer your phone. You can't just cut me off from everything." Each message confirmed what I already knew. She tried to use one of the cards and discovered her new reality. Good. Let her figure out what consequences actually felt like. The calls and texts continued all afternoon. I ignored every single one. Around 5, she tried calling from a different number. Someone at her office probably. I declined that one too. By evening, the messages had shifted tone. "Please call me back. I'm sorry. Let's fix this." Too little, too late. She was only sorry because her safety net had disappeared. Sorry because her backup plan wasn't working out the way she'd expected. Wednesday morning brought a new development. She'd apparently spent the night somewhere else because the guest room was empty and the boxes remained untouched. Around 10, my neighbor texted me. Your wife's been sitting in her car across the street for an hour. Thought you should know. I looked out the window. There she was, parked under the oak tree, staring at the house, waiting for me to come out and engage. To give her the confrontation she needed to make this my fault somehow. I made coffee and went about my day, ignoring her completely. She sat there until noon, then finally drove away. That afternoon, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. This time I answered. "We need to talk," she said immediately. "No, we don't. You can't just throw away 15 years without a conversation." The conversation happened Sunday night when you asked for permission to sleep with your ex-boyfriend. Everything since then has been consequences. That's not what I asked for. Then what did you ask for? Explain to me what one night to close that chapter means if it doesn't mean what I think it means. Silence. That's what I thought. You can't explain it because we both know exactly what you were asking for. It wasn't about sex, she said quietly. It was about everything. About choosing him over me. About prioritizing your feelings for another man over your marriage. About asking your husband to step aside while you handled your unfinished business with a man you never got over. You're twisting everything. I'm seeing everything clearly for the first time in weeks. Maybe years. Where am I supposed to go? You've cut me off from everything. You should have thought about that before you decided to betray your marriage. You made your choice. Now live with it. I hung up and blocked the number. Thursday evening, she escalated. I came home from work to find her car in the driveway and her sitting on the front steps. She'd been waiting for me. "The locks are changed," she said as I got out of my car. "They are. I live here too. You lived here. Past tense. You made other plans, remember? One night to close a chapter? Well, consider our chapter closed. I never went to see him. I stopped walking toward the door. What? I never went to his apartment. I never had my night of closure. I've been thinking about what you said, and you're right. It was inappropriate. So you're admitting I was right about what you were really asking for?" She looked down. Maybe. Either you were asking permission to cheat or you weren't. Which is it? I was confused. I made a mistake. You made a series of calculated decisions. You lied for weeks. You chose him over me repeatedly. You asked for permission to betray our marriage. None of that was confusion. It was choice. But I didn't go through with it. Because I didn't give you permission. Not because you realized it was wrong. I walked past her to the front door. "You're only here because your plan didn't work." That's not true. I turned back to face her. If I had said yes Sunday night, where would you have been Tuesday evening? She couldn't answer. Exactly. You're not sorry you asked. You're sorry I said no. You're not sorry you betrayed our marriage. You're sorry you got caught. You're not here because you chose me. You're here because he didn't work out the way you hoped. "Please," she said, and the desperation in her voice was almost pathetic. "Let me come home. Let's work on this." Home? You gave up your home when you chose another man. You gave up your marriage when you asked permission to cheat. You gave up everything when you decided I wasn't enough for you. I never said you weren't enough. You didn't have to say it. You showed me. Every lie, every secret meeting, every heart emoji you accepted from him. You showed me exactly where I ranked in your priorities. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. She tried to follow, but I blocked her path. The papers are filed. The accounts are closed. Your things are in boxes in the living room. You can collect them when I'm at work tomorrow. What about our marriage counseling? What about trying to save this? Save what? A marriage where my wife lies to me and asks permission to sleep with other men? There's nothing left to save. She started crying again. Real tears this time, not the manipulative ones from earlier in the week. She was finally understanding that this was really happening, that her actions had consequences she couldn't talk her way out of. "I love you," she whispered. "No, you don't. You love the security I provided. You love the life we built. You love having a backup plan while you explored your feelings for him." I started to close the door. "But you don't love me. Because women who love their husbands don't ask permission to cheat on them. Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this. You chose this. The moment you decided he was more important than honesty with me, you chose this. The moment you asked for your night of closure, you chose this." I looked at her one last time. "You just thought you could choose him and keep me too. You were wrong." I closed the door and locked it. She stood on the porch for another hour, crying and knocking occasionally. I turned up the television and ignored it all. By Friday morning, she was gone. So were the boxes. She'd taken her things and left, just like I'd told her to. For the first time in weeks, the house was peaceful. No lies, no drama, no walking on eggshells around someone who'd rather be somewhere else. Just silence. Clean, honest silence. and it felt like freedom. The weekend brought a different kind of chaos. She'd realized that getting her things back didn't mean getting her life back. Saturday morning, my phone started ringing from numbers I didn't recognize. First, she tried going through my sister. "She's really sorry," my sister said when she called. "She made a mistake, but she loves you." "Did she tell you what the mistake was?" "She said you two had a fight about an old friend." "An old friend?" "She asked me for permission to sleep with her ex-boyfriend. 2 days before our second honeymoon." The line went quiet. "She what?" "She lied to me for weeks about helping him, then asked for one night to close that chapter with him." My sister never called back to advocate for her after that conversation. Next, she tried my parents. Same story, same result. Once they knew what really happened, the calls stopped coming. By Monday, she'd moved on to showing up at my workplace. I was leaving the office around 6 when I saw her car in the parking lot. "You can't keep avoiding me forever," she said. "I'm not avoiding you. I'm ignoring you. There's a difference. We're still married. Not for long." She looked terrible, exhausted, stressed, like she hadn't been sleeping. "Good. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this if you'll just give me a chance." "Fix what exactly? Your lies? Your emotional affair? Your request to cheat on me?" "I never cheated, because I didn't let you. Not because you didn't want to. You're right. I was selfish and stupid, and I nearly threw away the best thing in my life for something that didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything? Then why did you need a night to close that chapter?" She looked down. "Because I was an idiot." "No, because he meant something. He meant enough for you to lie to me. He meant enough for you to risk our marriage. Please, just give me one chance to make this right. You had 15 years of chances. You had 3 weeks of chances to tell me the truth. You made your choice every single time." I got in my truck, but she grabbed the door. "What if I told you he meant nothing? What if I told you it was all just attention and validation? Then I'd say you threw away your marriage for attention and validation. That doesn't make it better. It makes it worse." I drove away, leaving her standing in the parking lot. Tuesday brought a new low. She showed up at my gym, waiting by the front desk. "This is stalking," I said as I walked past her. "This is fighting for my marriage. Your marriage ended when you asked permission to cheat on me." She followed me to the parking lot. "What about counseling?" "Counseling for what? You want to work through your feelings for another man." "I want to work through our problems." "I don't have problems. I had a wife who chose another man over me." Past tense. Problem solved. "You're being cruel." "I'm being honest. Something you might want to try sometime." Wednesday, she tried working through our mutual friends, spinning some version where she was the victim of my unreasonable jealousy. 3 different people called me that day. When they learned the truth about her lies and her request for a night with her ex, they stopped calling to advocate for her. Friday afternoon, she showed up at my house again, sitting on the front steps. "Go away," I said without getting out of my truck. "I need to tell you something. I don't care. He never wanted me back. He just wanted to mess up my marriage." I turned off the engine. This was new. When I went to get my things, I stopped by his apartment. He laughed at me, said he never intended to get back together, said he just wanted to see if he could break us up. "And you're telling me this because?" "Because you were right. About everything. You risked everything for the attention, for the validation. Him being a manipulator doesn't change what you did, but it proves you were right. I didn't need proof. I knew what he was doing from day one. The question was never about him. It was about you. About your willingness to betray me for him. I see that now. You see it now because it didn't work out the way you hoped. If he'd wanted you back, you'd still be lying to me." She couldn't argue because we both knew it was true. "What do I have to do?" she asked quietly. "Accept that it's over. Accept that your actions had consequences. Accept that you destroyed something that can't be repaired." I walked toward the house. "And stop showing up places I am. It's pathetic. I'll fight this divorce." "Go ahead. Fight it. You asked your husband for permission to cheat. You lied for weeks. You conducted an emotional affair." I stopped at the door. "Fight it all you want. You'll lose." I went inside and locked the door. She sat on the steps for another hour before finally leaving. That was the last time she tried the direct approach. Her desperation was just getting started. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. She tried fighting it briefly, but her lawyer dropped her when she couldn't pay his retainer. Turns out financial independence is hard when you've burned all your bridges. I kept the house, most of our assets, and my peace of mind. She got exactly what she'd earned, nothing. The day I signed the final papers, I felt lighter than I had in years. No more walking on eggshells. No more wondering what she was really doing when she claimed to be helping friends. No more being married to someone who saw me as a backup plan. I threw myself into work, started hitting the gym regularly, reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during the marriage. Turns out I'd been living a smaller life than I realized, accommodating someone who didn't appreciate what I was sacrificing. 6 months post-divorce, I was a different man. Confident, focused, genuinely happy for the first time in longer than I cared to admit. That's when she tried her final play. I was leaving my favorite restaurant on a Friday night when I saw her in the parking lot. Not hiding this time, just standing by my truck, waiting. "You look good," she said as I approached. I didn't respond, just clicked the key fob to unlock the doors. "I heard you got promoted." "Still nothing from me." "I made a mistake," she said quietly. "The biggest mistake of my life." I finally looked at her. Which mistake? Lying to me? Choosing him over me? Asking permission to cheat? Or thinking I'd take you back afterward? All of it. I ruined everything for someone who didn't even want me. No, you ruined everything because you wanted him. The fact that he didn't want you back is irrelevant. I know that now. You know it now because you're alone and broke and realizing what you actually lost. I opened the truck door. 6 months ago, you thought you were trading up. Now you know you weren't. I was stupid. You were selfish. There's a difference. She stepped closer. What if I told you I've changed? What if I told you I understand now what I had with you? I'd say you're about 6 months too late. People make mistakes. People make choices. You chose to lie. You chose to betray me. You chose to ask for a night with another man. I got in the truck. I chose to have enough self-respect not to accept that. So that's it. 15 years means nothing. 15 years meant everything to me. That's why your betrayal hurt so much. That's why your lies were so devastating. That's why I won't give you a chance to do it again. I would never. You already did. And you only regret it because it didn't work out the way you planned. I started the engine. If he had wanted you back, you'd be with him right now instead of standing in this parking lot begging your ex-husband for another chance. That's not true. It's completely true. You didn't come back because you realized you loved me. You came back because your other option fell through. She started crying, but this time the tears didn't move me at all. I lost everything, she whispered. You threw everything away. There's a difference. Please, I'm asking you to forgive me. I forgave you months ago. For my own peace, not for yours. I put the truck in reverse. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Forgiveness doesn't mean giving you another chance to destroy me. What am I supposed to do now? Live with your choices. Learn from them. Be better in your next relationship. I backed out of the parking space and stopped showing up places I am. It's been 6 months. Move on. I drove away and left her standing there, finally understanding that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. 2 years later, I'm remarried to a woman who chose me from day one and keeps choosing me every day. Someone who understands that loyalty isn't conditional, that honesty isn't optional, and that marriage means forsaking all others. My ex-wife never remarried. I hear she's still single, still trying to figure out how she went from having everything to having nothing. The answer is simple. She chose poorly. She chose lies over truth. She chose excitement over stability. She chose another man over her husband. And I chose to be with someone who would never make me question my worth or wonder if I was enough. Some people call it harsh. I call it having standards. Because men who know their value don't accept disrespect. Men who know their worth don't compete for their wife's attention. Men who respect themselves don't give second chances to people who asked permission to betray them. She wanted one night to close a chapter with her ex. I gave her forever to close the chapter on us. Best decision I ever made.